Of the two films that I was looking forward to this year, the first being Joker 2, and we all know how that one worked out. I was really looking forward to War of the Rohirrim. I thought, hey, Peter Jackson, Philippa Boyens, Fran Walsh, they were all coming back and they were going to be doing Lord of the Rings right, as opposed to what was happening with Tolkien over there at Amazon. We could go ahead and wash away all of those bad tastes from our mouth. And then we started to hear more about the story. We started to hear about the inspiration behind telling this specific story. We were really drawn to this unnamed character, about how she was forgotten by Tolkien. It's like, oh God, please. Okay, and especially you're going to be telling and couching this in one of the coolest stories that Tolkien ever wrote with Helm, Hammerhand. And then the first trailer dropped and I heard all of the dialogue that's in there about how Hera Hammerhand is the coolest and the best and the greatest leader ever, and oh, she's so smart and wise, and oh, she's the best of all of us. And it's like, God damn it, you screwed it up again. Then earlier this week, IGN got an exclusive 8 minutes of content. And at this point in time, people have already seen the film. Okay, I'm not going to play all 8 minutes, mostly because we'd be here for a very long time of me breaking this down through gnashed teeth. But for all of the people, and yeah, like I said, people have seen this ahead of its next week release, I think, something like that. I think that's when it's coming out. There's the release date that's in this, but frankly, I just don't care, man. Because they're setting this up and they're teasing you right off rip and letting you know that, yeah, this is a blatant bait and switch. They're telling the story of Helm Hammerhand, how he took guys on, punched them bare fist to death. It's the coolest stuff in the world. But no, it needs to be all about Hera. And yeah, anybody saying that, oh, there's really great animation, I mean, there's some stills that are right here. And bro, this ain't it, okay? I grew up in the 90s, right? So I got to have this, knockoff Japanese animation style just permeate all of my after-school television watching affair, and this doesn't look any dissimilar to what we seen back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, there's some episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, Sailor Moon that probably look better than this stuff. Like, this ain't it, okay? And then to have, Helm Hammerhand standing there with his back to Helm's Deep. This being the event that eventually names that stronghold for the Rohirrim people. A story clunkily being told about, oh my God, there's no man that's there. And implying that he has one of the men's ring of power. He's no man, he's a ghost. What has he turned into? That was all a part of the legend. But no. Now they're just going to try to explain the supernatural, and then actually he was doing it all for his, goofily dressed daughter who's not wearing a dress. Well, at least not until she needs to fight the main antagonist at the end. The guy that his father offered to marry his first son off to Helm's daughter, who wasn't named in the books until now, or I guess in the histories rather. Until they have their fantastical duel that'll just, look like CalArts anime style. It's so unspectacular. And the fact that, yeah, we get robbed of badass Helm Hammerhand with his Warhammer, like, should be embarrassed, okay? But not quite as embarrassed as what ScreenRad is out here talking, okay? Because they get this paywalled article that is written by Amanda Mullen. Keep that name in mind. Who is Hera Hammerhand? Canon, status, and Lord of the Rings connection explained. Well, that's interesting because you originally had a different title for that article for a character ignored by Tolkien. He wrote the story. She was just superfluous to the tale being told about a guy protecting his kingdom by an invading force. Anyways, is to starring in her own film. Who is Hera Hammerhand? And as Critical Drinker points out, a character so thoroughly unimportant that she didn't even have a name, and this is a star of a multi-million-dollar animated movie. Yeah, but it's going to be narrated by Miranda Otto. She was Eowyn from Two Towers and Return of the King. You remember? It's not like there hasn't been leaders in Middle Earth because Eowyn takes over for King Theoden after he passes the Pelennor Fields. Did you know that? Did she know that? Shut up. This is how far Hollywood will go to find their next girl boss. And yeah, Gary from Nerdrotic has seen the film and he confirms it's as bad as Rings of Power. It makes Hera a Galadriel-esque girl boss, and it is something that you shouldn't even waste your time on. And that makes me sad, man. It makes me big sad. But also, could be stemming the tide on this stuff, because now we're getting to a point where all this girl boss stuff, all this woke crap, and not even saying that this is woke. This is just, good old-fashioned intersectional feminism, okay? Almost as, it's kind of refreshing. It's like it's putting on an old blanket whenever you're cold or something like that. It's almost nostalgic to simply go back to the overpowered masculine women superseding the incompetent and inept men. Hello, old friend. Still as toxic and poisonous as ever, I see. But now, Now that whole trend is starting to get long in the tooth, I'm not saying that it's going to be going away, but at least the media class is starting to take note of this shifting of the winds, this cultural tide being turned, and now I return to you at said turn of the tide to inform you that now it's open season to mock and ridicule Rings of Power and the failure of recanting some of the greatest stories ever committed to print. The $808 million series, that's the biggest flop in TV history, and there's still 3 seasons to go, which is hilarious, right? At least at time of recording. I don't really think things are going to change before you guys see this video, but Rings of Power Season 3 hasn't been confirmed, which is very interesting because, yeah, the show ended, what was it, midway through October? Or at the beginning of October? Yeah, beginning of October, my mistake. And outside of one update that said that, oh boy, the ratings were kind of ass, we haven't heard hide nor hair of this. And you would think, right? Because this is Warner Brothers putting out War of the... Amazon would try to do tit for tat like what they did when they first announced, oh, season 2 is coming out in a couple of months. Be really excited for Rings of Power again, guys. Don't worry. We've fixed all the wrongs that was in season 1 and actually doubled down and made an even worse series of television. Warner Brothers decided to whip their dongs out on the proverbial table and release several hype teasers for otherwise underwhelming House of the Dragon season 2. But hell, they looked awfully good. They looked a lot better than that 8 minutes of crap. I do encourage you to go and watch it because, hey, I got pissed off watching it, so I just want to help share the load with everyone. So yeah, perhaps Amazon wants to go ahead and announce, because there's a general level of, oh boy, this is not looking good, because we didn't look through the comments, but even on IGN's post, it's quite split. I mean, old Herald gifts are always good, right? The War of the Rohirrim, yeah, is going to be a must-watch. Tickets are already on my list. Why are those in quotes, and why do you seem like a total shill account? Anyways, I hate everything about this. And then in quotes again by that same account, Rohan's story is about to come alive in ways we've never seen before. Why? Who are you quoting? This is not the right move. IGN, this isn't the opening minutes. Oh yeah, the way that they caption this is hilarious. Yeah, because it's obviously a couple of different string together scenes with an obvious cut, you know, right after they set up Helm Hammerhand out there just beating the brakes off of some kids, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's Hera, and then she pretends that she's, you know, trapped, and then she goes on this big adventure to go save her dad, who's beaten the shit out of the invading forces because, yeah, he's just too bloodlusty to get his way out of there. But yeah, watch the exclusive opening minutes of the upcoming anime film, which it's animes bastardized by the West. Once again, I hate it all so much, but not as much as I actually hate. That's not even fair, because it's more or less apathy. And I've listened to so many breakdowns of Rings of Power because I do love me some Lord of the Rings. And at this point in time, like, this is just funny. I look forward to the reviews of War of the Rohirrim, but I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to see it, and I'm going to ignore it like I have the Hobbit movies. And it's sad because, you know, I'd like something to look forward to in the media space, but oh well, I just have to wait till next year. Maybe that movie will be the Thunderbolts. Amazon's Lord of the Rings prequel. Yes, The Rings of Power has become the most expensive television series in history, and it'll cost surging to $808.9 million. It's over $1 billion. Like, stop it. Even though it's almost 2/3 of all viewers quit watching the show before the finale of its first season. In 2017, Amazon paid an estimated $250 million to buy the TV rights to the Lord of the Rings appendices from the estate of British author J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the original books in the 50s. Yes, Amazon's billionaire boss Jeff Bezos is a super fan of the fantasy series and was personally involved in the negotiations. Yeah, and his son personally told him, if you better not mess this up. And what ended up happening? Rings of Power happened, as he saw the potential to turn the show, and yeah, that could take on his arch rival HBO's Game of Thrones. And yeah, guess what? The source material is better from Tolkien. I know, right? J.R.R. Tolkien is actually a better writer than George R.R. Martin, mostly because he knows how to finish a story. It didn't end up being the heavy hitter he hoped for. Yeah, exactly, because it was really bad. Every aspect of this show is awful. Got a couple of screensaver images that look decent, but outside of that, the characters are aids, the story is nonsensical, and you bastardize the lore. So yeah, buying into an inbuilt fan base, you already drove them off by totally butchering the source material. Like, what were you hoping for? riding the coattails of a dying trend by having a girl boss with a recognizable name, it was never going to work. When the first season of Rings of Power was released on Amazon Prime streaming service in 2022, only 37% of US viewers who started watching it saw it through to the end, according to Hollywood Reporter. Yep, and then 2 years later, the second season didn't fare any better, where half of those people decided to check out the second season. And yeah, numbers didn't end up getting updated. Kind of strange, right? Data from streaming analytics firm Samba TV showed within 4 days of its premiere, the first episode was watched 900,000 times, in 900,000 US households, but it was also dropped alongside 3 episodes. Yeah, the first 3 episodes were dropped on the first day, and only 900,000 people checked out the first one. That means, oh boy, they were even driving people off. And, episode 1 is a special type of crap. Like, it's really bad, but, they definitely saved the worst for last. Like 7 and 8 are hilariously awful. I digress. Which is about half the size of the audience of the season 1 pilot. Yep, actually, it's virtually identical to the numbers that Samba reported. Actually, it was 1.8 million over 3 days, as opposed to 900,000 over 4 days. The show found itself in the middle of a fierce row as its diverse cast of actors, which actually, angered many fans of the books who claimed that Tolkien's masterpiece had been updated for a modern world in ways that altered the integrity of the original. Yeah, exactly. And you could tell a story with diverse characters because guess what? Tolkien did account for that. And because he had Rune this season, very much could have had diverse casting. But no. He decided to have a black dwarf and not give the women beards like they should. And here's the thing. Diza, that elf in question, is one of the better actors in the show, and at one point in time was a decent character until she got terminal brain rot by dropping a tuning crystal down into a cave just off of the bazaar and waking up the Balrog. Like, whatever. It contributed to audiences, yes, giving the 2 seasons an average rating of 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, whilst Game of Thrones scored 85%. Yeah, it's not really an apples-to-apples comparison, man. Because a lot of people loved Game of Thrones' first 7 seasons. It took me a while to come back around to it, and I like the first 4 seasons well enough. I really like the first 2, and the second, and 3 and 4 are a little bit flumpy, and then 5 is a nihilism simulator, and 6 is what happens when you just develop CTE. And then after that, don't even talk to me. The Rings of Power has failed to become a cultural phenomenon like Game of Thrones. Despite being based on a much more well-known series of books, it came at quite a cost. And yeah, exactly. Came at a cost that Dr. Evil and the wax figurine could definitely afford. But they squandered the easiest layup in history. The story that they're adapting, the Second Age, is super dope. There's so many interesting stories to tell, but no. You wanted to tell the story about Galadriel, girl boss, a slayer of orcs, champion of the wastelands. You wanted to go ahead with that, except for the proper fall of Eregion, the proper flooding of Numenor, the epic War of the Last Alliance. Instead of doing all of that stuff, no. You wanted to send the Haladriel ship off to Valinor. You wanted to make Celebrimbor the greatest of elven smiths, a weepy grandma with flowing Vidal Sassoon haircuts. Like, what are you doing? You get what you deserve. You could have made changes to the source material, just like Peter Jackson did, and you could have made something fantastic, but you blew it. You had it all, and you blew it. And that's exactly the tone and tenor that I'm getting from War of the Rohirrim when it eventually does come out. Yeah, it will be next Friday, and it underwhelms everyone. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.